Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Ask the Experts. My name is Carl Capolingua. I'm the market analyst over here at Think Markets Australia, and it is a pleasure to be with you as we delve into the depths of your portfolio and try and pull out some winners as well that maybe, hopefully, help you avoid some losers. The agenda for today is actually pretty simple. I'm going to throw over to you, head to your chat window, type in the stocks you're interested in, and I'll do my best to give you a quick technical and fundamental reader. First in, best dressed, is Glenn. Glenn has MCR and S32 happen to be on Zip. I'll give you a very quick opinion on Zip. Short-term trend is down, long-term trend is down. The candles are not inspiring, neither is the price action, and I can't even see anything there in the volume that would get me too excited. Maybe this day is a little bit interesting, but if you are a Zip fan, and I don't think I have many, to be honest, because very rarely do I get a question about it here, I'd want to see something that looked like that first, and we're so far away from this one even being remotely investable, in my opinion. And it hasn't been investable for so long, and I think that's the other message, isn't it, as well? You say, well, Carl, you wouldn't buy it now, but to be honest, Carl, you wouldn't have bought it for the last 12 months and probably the better part of 18 months, and it's got the fingerprints of massive supply coming in around this high all over it. But we digress. Let's head to MCR. And you can see my fingerprints all over this one. Let's zoom in. I don't think we've looked at it for a little while because the scratchings end here. And I'm going to say that maybe we were worried about this zone. And yes, clearly we were worried about any resistance in this zone. And go check the tapes. No doubt I would have said this is the key zone here because it's the it's the short-term dynamic trend zone. And if we saw black candles come in there, then we would head down. But if instead we saw the white candles in there, then there's probably nothing to worry about. As it turns out, it looks like we actually got more of the white candles than the black candles. A bit of supply in there. You can see some of the shadows, but really probably after this day here, I think we're in the clear, and then really this day confirms it. So we talked clearly about the major sell signals that were in the market. Then we talked about potentially support down here, also being the round number and the long-term trend zone, the prospect of a rally, and then obviously what we needed to see. And the good news is I think we've seen what we needed to see. So that's the past. Let's now head to the current analysis. And what I really like about this one, let me get the red arrow going, is obviously this, once we saw this, and I wouldn't say that's a convincing day, with that upper shadow, clearly we're starting to see the impact of some of that supply come in around there. And I'm guessing it's probably pretty close to the bottom of that candle as well. But this is the good day. So once we close above that level, it's telling me that the supply that I was concerned about, potentially in the system, we've gotten through that. Okay, so that is no longer a problem. Don't need to worry about that anymore. And the market is swinging back to the demand side. Ideally, what we'd like, after seeing that we've taken out that supply, is another demand side signal. But even better, I would suggest, is one which comes back and tests that little area and then holds, and that's your candle right there. And this is magic. So if we say that this is sort of the line that's delineating between supply and demand, and we know that we're worried about supply on this side, and now we're looking for whether we've got confirming demand on this side, this candle is exactly what you want to see. So we came back, we tested it, we closed near the highs, and from here, really, I think it's such a strong candle, you can almost upgrade it back to a buy just on the basis of that candle. How have we gone since then? Well, nothing really all that interesting, to be honest. It's been going quite sideways. A little bit of supply in here. How do I know there's supply in here? Well, just look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. Look at these shadows. I mean, the market is talking to you. However, where's the demand? Well, we know the demand is here, but we can also see that little probe in here, little probes into demand actually holding. And I think today's candle is really constructive. The only problem with today's candle, it's not a problem at all, it's just that it hasn't closed yet. So if we can close around here, I'm actually pretty happy because if you look at where the shadows are, this will be our best close since this day. We've got an update with the price in change. So I'm pretty happy with this. Let's delete some of these here. And I just want to draw one more line through here. So this is the one I want to draw. That's kind of the one I'm looking at. A close above that's even better. But I think a close, what's this high here? Let's have a look at that high there, 254. Where are we now? High is 254 today. So see the top of that candle? Close above that. It's just whether you want to go early. So, I mean, if you wait for a close above here, that high there, 258. So close at 259 or better, there's no question this is a buy. But whether you want to go early. Look, close on the highs today, I'm happy. Okay, long story short. So Mincor I'm going to call that a buy, assuming we close on the highs of today's candle. At the moment, that is 254 or better, and it's even better if we close, say, at 259 or better. Okay, I don't think I can be any clearer on that one. Next one is S32, which I put in my shortlist yesterday. Pretty similar in terms of the price action that we like to see. So nothing goes up in a straight line forever. We can see some of the telltale signs sort of through this area that supply was coming to the market. You could talk a little bit about maybe that candle and that candle and that candle and that candle. And the fact they're all happening beneath this candle and this supply event here. I think this is one of those clear supply events that we often talk about in these sessions. That's history. Down we come, and what we're looking for is the right price action. This is not it yet. There's a little one in there, a little one in there, and then we start to get it back sort of through here, okay, where we're moving back into peaks and troughs. What we would prefer is a little bit of peak trough separation. So last trough, second from last peak. So if we call this trough 0, and we say that we ideally, if that's peak, well, we don't know where peak 0 is going to be. This is P0 up here. We don't know where that is, but we know it'll be higher than P1, and we call this P2. So if we say trough 0, we'd like that to be at or above peak 2. It's not. Why is it not? Well, as long as we can find some logical reasons why that's not the case, and we are seeing some compression beneath this supply zone here. This is, I think, going to be a very clear supply zone. Okay, why is that a clear supply zone? Well, look at what came before it. So this is, we had this sort of zone up here where demand was quite consistent. So if you look at, say, the demand that came in here, 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 and here, once we crack beneath that demand zone, it will act as a supply zone. And we can see there was clear supply in the market. So we're getting some compression there. That explains probably why the price action is not as good as it should be. But I think once we close above that level, so that high there is 484, call it 485, and then we closed yesterday was the key, closing at 488. So I'm pretty happy with that. Today is a bit of a non-event so far, but it's not a terrible candle. So I'm happy on the basis that the price action has improved again to higher peaks and higher troughs. We've got a logical reason why the last trough is not at or above the second from last peak, and the fact that we closed above what is or has presented itself as a clear supply zone. I think they're all good things. So I'm happy to go back to a buy on this one. I think for all intents and purposes, this long-term trend, and this is really what we're talking about, isn't it, is understanding when the short-term pullback to the long-term trend has played out and we're moving back into a long-term uptrend. So for now, happy to buy that one. I'm going to clear all this. There's a recording so you can have a look at all those scratchings later on, because I do want to talk about where we need to be very cautious. So once again, up here, we're going to be attentive for signs. So, for every reason, we're going to see some movement sort of towards here, but it's in this zone now that we absolutely have to be really attentive for any key supply signs. And what do they look like? We've talked about what they look like already. These sorts of candles coming in here, I'd be a little bit more concerned. But assuming we hit there with the white candles like we did on the last one, then that will be fine. And I can't give you a definitive answer for what's going to happen in the future because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. That's impossible. All I can say is when we get there, the candles will tell us everything we need to know. The next one is SRN, and this one looks pretty decent. When I pause, it's because I'm really thinking about the candles and I'm really trying to decipher what they're telling me. And if I have to pause, they're not giving me a really clear, definitive answer to the question, is it? And that's okay. I mean, I'm not going to get a clear answer on everything. But we can see, I guess, the price action is not ideal. So we've talked about this idea of wanting to see that last trough to second to last peak separation. It's telling me I've got some really nice price action in there. So something that kind of looks like that. And then you've got that separation in here, which is just telling me that the old point of supply, is now acting as a point of demand, and it's doing it in a really good way. It's telling me that we are not in, let's say we were much like South32, right? Coming down in this fashion, okay, where we were previously in a sell the rally phase, which is what bear markets ultimately are all about. It's telling me that we are back in the buy the dip phase, Okay, and this is all about FOMO, right? This is about fear of missing out, and that's what we want to get back into to get prices to go up. If I had to give, it's all about, I guess, for you, having a portfolio of 10 out of 10s, isn't it? And giving each chart a score out of 10. And this would lose points for that price action. The candle, a couple of white candles, but then there's a bunch of black candles, and I think I've got some issues as well with the strength of these. That is some almighty supply coming in around that 5 cent, and again, 5 cent, bit of a round number there as well. So it doesn't mean that this one can't go back up. I just think it's got some real challenges to going back up, and we're going to see an increasing amount of supply as we approach this zone here, right? And let's see how we deal with it, and maybe ask me again next Tuesday. For now, buy, hold, sell. I think there's enough in it to hold it. Why? Well, because we do have a well-established short-term trend, and the long-term trend is in place. So I think there's certainly enough in there to hold it, but I can't go buy just yet. Next one is for Andrew. This is ASN, Anson Resources, a little bit sideways for me. And what I have been breaking some of my rules here. A few of you probably shouting at your computer screens. Is to zoom back to normal, and that will give me better perspective. And again, if we had to score this out of 10, and shout at your screen because I can't hear you, what do you reckon it might be? 5 out of 10? Probably better than that. Maybe I could go 6 out of 10, but I don't think I can go a whole lot higher than that. Just because if you look at the price action, it is very choppy, very overlappy, and I'm stylizing a few here. Yeah, I can't say that's a picture of excess demand, and really it is the excess demand we need to see in a chart to get us excited. What I might do before I get too far away from the other one is to put in S32 here, because I just want to demonstrate the fact that we do have this fundamental analysis tool, and we can do fundamental analysis as well in today's sessions. Don't worry for all the TAs out there, I won't take up too much time. But this comes the data comes from Thomson Reuters Refinitiv Icon product, and they aggregate all of the broker estimates. So we've got 15 broker estimates here. 3 are at a strong buy, 13 buys, 1 hold, no sells, no strong sells. So that's pretty impressive. Their average price target is $5.79, which allows for about 18.6% upside from the current price. And the current price here is $4.88. It may be a little bit different in the market right now. And we get their estimates. So you can see, obviously, these are historical. They're not estimates. They've actually occurred. But these ones here from FY22, which is obviously still going, will finish at June 30. And then beyond are all estimates for what S32 is going to do. I'd like to look in this line here next and check out whether they've got really lofty estimates or very bearish estimates. And these ones are quite bearish because I think most brokers are expecting at some stage this commodity cycle will run its course and commodity prices will be lower in the future. How much lower? Well, after this boom of 447%, which is of course absurd that we've got numbers like this, but it is just what the pandemic has thrown up. We're going to see a moderation and probably average growth of minus 13%. So the question is whether there's a low risk of achieving that, and probably is a low risk of achieving that. So I don't need to change that to high. I can leave that there because this will change the discount rate that is applied to the calculations. I was hoping to get something really nice here, but I can't because we've got some crazy numbers in there. And I will say in advance, my spreadsheet tends not to work all that well when there are crazy numbers in the system. Next thing we need to do is work out a reasonable benchmark PE. We can see in the past, actually, South32 has had a much higher PE than the 6 it's at now, the 5, the 7, the 9. And I think 7's too low, and I think you probably maybe not take them all into account and go to 14, although it's starting to look pretty cheap there, but I think target of 12 and maybe being a bit conservative. I mean, you can put any number you want in there, but it's what you would be prepared to pay, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I think somewhere between 10 and 12. Look, maybe you could squint and go 15, but it's starting to not be as much of a bargain, in my opinion. So I think it's pretty fairly valued. That's my opinion. The brokers are probably working off a much higher target PE. You can see they're closer to 14 or probably even 15 might be in their spreadsheet. Actually, it's probably pretty close to that, isn't it? But it's about what I'd be prepared to pay. And at the moment, I think 12 for these commodity stocks is not unreasonable, given that, let's face it, there probably will be a moderation in many of those commodity prices down the track. So S32 looks pretty good on the chart. I don't think the valuation's all that stretched, and certainly the brokers are loving it right now, so that might give you some encouragement on that one. We'll do our best as we go through to find stocks that will have some fundamentals. Stocks like these little mining companies that don't have earnings, don't have broker coverage, clearly there's no point putting them in. With a Zip for Andrew, I've done Zip actually, that's quite handy because I did do that one already, Andrew, and CTT, which is Cettire. Now, we talked about some of the things that Zip would need to do before I got interested in it, and I drew something on the chart that looked very similar to what we're seeing on Cettire right now. Certainly, long-term trend still well established to the downside, short-term trend still to the downside, but moderating somewhat, might actually even go orange pretty soon. Price action, I think, is getting better. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here because I want to see some of these candles and some of the volume, and I don't mind them hitting sort of the lows with some volume, that final sell-off, that final capitulation being soaked up by longer-term holders who are prepared to take on the risk here. A little bit of a push in the volume to get it going again with this white candle, which I do like very much. That's a bit disturbing, but not unusual in such a trend where I guess trend followers start to come back in, short sellers start to come back in. But I like the fact that this trough here, certainly above that trough, which I missed because I was too zoomed out when I drew it. And this is good as well. So pretty happy actually that we're seeing supply removal. So when I see this volume spike here off a low base with this demand side candle, in what is a downtrend, I see supply removal. So I like this one. I'm not going to call it a buy, but I can upgrade it from what, let's face it, if you know me, I would have called it a sell for months and months now. But I can certainly get to a hold on this one. And if you know my style as well, you know I don't need to see it necessarily be all the way above here, as long as the price is doing the right thing. I could go for a speculative buy. Watch it. If you're a crazy risk taker, then maybe there's something in it. But I just think I'd rather find something in an uptrend where it's just a bit easier. But I can see what you're looking at there, Andrew, and it's certainly starting to do many of the things that I like to see in those turnaround plays. Zip, no, I can't see Zip. I can't see it, Andrew. I'm not feeling that one just yet. You could be right, hey, what do I know? But I like Cettire. I think you're on the right track with that one. This one's from Chris. I like your views on WDS. Okay, we haven't done WDS ever in Ask the Experts because it's only just become WDS. Of course, I'm talking about Woodside Energy, crowd favourite. Let's head back to our default zoom. Short-term downtrend, is the first thing that strikes me when I look at this, and it's pretty well established, and it seems to be perpetuating, isn't it? A couple of things I do like, however, obviously the strength of the long-term trend, the fact that we got pretty close to the pullback there, and that's where long-term investors are going to start to look at it again, and quite a logical area, I think, to try and find some demand. Because I look at candles here, like that, like that, like that, like that. There is some sneaky, cheeky, latent demand in the system in and around here. So it doesn't surprise me this is the area that we're seeing it at. So that's all good. I like this. This is really impressive for me. And as long as we stay above that low, so that low there is 29.26. As long as we don't close beneath that, there's every chance that this is actually a pretty decent low that we're setting here. In fact, the more I look at this, the more I'm thinking we have seen a pretty decent swing low in this move. Very broadly speaking, what's a swing low? Well, that's a swing high, that's a swing low, if you get what I mean, like the big ones. So it's very interesting. I certainly go hold. I don't think I can get to a buy. What would get me to a buy on this one? Okay, well, you already know the answer to that, don't you? So we want to see, we're already in a little bit of a pullback, but if we saw another candle matching this one here, so if we saw, this is really a beautiful candle. If we see it occur, say in here, around that 30, even maybe pulling back, holding that 30, then that would be really good. Or close above the short-term trend zone and probably even that peak. So close above 30.67, so 30.68 or better, and I think I could get very close to upgrading this one back to a buy. I'm happy to go hold for now. And we've got Julian asking for CDA, which is doing some of those things that Cettire is doing as well. So looking half interesting here. I'm guessing last time we talked about it, we talked about the anatomy of a long-term uptrend turning into a long-term downtrend, and probably pointed to the trend killer, the absolute trend killer there. I wonder what I said about what it was doing at the time, somewhere around here. I didn't draw my usual lines, did I? My usual, well, what do we need to see? How many times have you seen me draw that? draw these lines. This is what I need to see. And it's starting to do it. And actually, there's some decent volume here as well. So I like the supply removals. You need that push to get it going again. This is not the worst chart, and it might confuse people. Say, hey, Carl, I can see all the pink and all the red. And this is actually not the worst chart. I'd rate this higher than we had one earlier before, which was Anson, which was really overlapping. So I'd actually be more drawn to this one than Anson. And you might say, well, that doesn't make sense because the trend is such a huge downtrend. But I'm looking for these signs of a turnaround play. This could completely, what's the right word? Just flitter out this new rally, and it could just go back in the downtrend. And that's the risk you take, of course. So they're higher risk setups than just following a trend to the upside. Look, I can go hold. I can't go buy. You can probably just tell the doubt in my voice that I'm not seeing enough of the good stuff. But there's definitely something going on there. It's just a matter of just waiting and watching, and you might miss the first couple of bucks, but if it goes back up, it's going to go up more than that. We've seen. I was about to say, oh, we've seen rallies like this before. We actually haven't. We actually haven't really seen that's not a rally. That didn't get any price action around it. Didn't get any nice candles in there. A bit of volume here, but yeah, that's nothing. This is not as good either because you look at the angle of attack here. We're actually getting some angle of attack. This is very flat. So this is kind of the first time you'd look at Codan and say, well, actually, maybe we're starting to make a low. And that short-term trend is up as well. So this is one's from Julian. So we look at some of the ones we've talked about today. It's fascinating. You pick them. I don't pick them. So Cettire, Codan, but not Zip. And maybe, hopefully, this session is as much as answering your portfolio questions, but it's also as much as getting your eye in. You can see why I'm not as keen on Zip, maybe as Cettire and Codan. Interesting. Let's have a look now at, you want to look at Codan on the broker views, Julian? Let's do that for you. So let's go here, CDA. We'll punch that in. We do have some brokers here covering this one, 5 in fact. We've got 3 strong buys, 5 estimates, but we've actually got 6 brokers. That's impressive. 3 strong buys, 2 buys, and 1 hold. We have a mean target of 1075, which is 34% above the current price. In terms of the earnings, pretty quiet actually. So we're getting some reasonable numbers here, numbers that aren't up 400% and then down 26%. So that's good. I don't think there's a huge risk in achieving those numbers. They're very conservative, aren't they, from the brokers. In terms of the right PE for the stock, well, you can see it's been in the 20s and 30s, and probably therefore I think that's pretty restrictive. Just ignore this because I haven't set it yet. But if I go F, we get 13.1. I still think that's a bit conservative. So let's go. That's dynamic future, dynamic historical, and dynamic. I'm going to go target on this one. I reckon 15 is pretty sensible. And lo and behold, I didn't mean that to happen, but if this is gut feel, of course, and my gut is based upon decades of experience. And I think 15 for this stock is something I'd be prepared to pay, and lo and behold, it's at fair value right now. That's probably a pretty good reflection of the market. Stocks should be trading around fair value, or at least my perception thereof. So I'm going to say Codan, not expensive at these price levels, and maybe if you believe the broker's starting to look a little bit cheap. It doesn't mean I'm going to run out and buy it though. I can't see enough in the chart. Okay, let's do IDN for King, which is trying to get that bounce thing going, and you're all bottom fishing this week, aren't you? It's very interesting to see so many of these setups come in. Much better than Zip, maybe not as good as Cettire, maybe not as good as Codan, but we are seeing some of those telltale signs. I like this candle in here. We've got a little bit of a blip on the volume. Maybe its volume is taken out of scale by some of the other ones. So not bad. Look, I can get to hold. I can't get to buy. I don't think there's enough in it to call that one a buy for you, King. IEL, not inspiring. This one looks like it maybe hasn't finished this move yet because that long-term trend is only just establishing itself. The potential demand points around here. Candles aren't terrible, not great. This here is okay, And really, we're not talking about buys here. So when I look at a chart like this, I'm not even contemplating a buy. So maybe we should just get through these a bit faster and say, look, this is about whether I could even call it a hold or whether I'm a sell. High peaks, high troughs, and that half decent candle in there at a level where there's been some demand in the past. I reckon I can get to hold on that one, but I wouldn't even contemplate a buy at this stage. King says he doesn't own them, but he's watching them closely. Yeah, look, I think you can continue to watch those, but we're not yet at the stage where we want to buy it. AKE looks pretty amazing. A little bit frustrating for me because I tend to draw these sorts of pictures when I say watch this one, and I have said watch this one to see this, and it just kind of just went straight up and didn't give us an obvious entry point. But you could sort of squint and say, well, much like one of the early ones, what was that, MCR, where I said sometimes you don't get them as obvious, but they are there if you want to look at them. So we might have been worried about potential supply coming in at this level. There was nothing to worry about. Look at the amazing candle there, wonderful candle, and then this one just as good. And this little pullback here I think is important because we did at the start of the day come down there, but then by the end of the day come back through. A little bit of supply there, but that's fine. A little bit of supply here. Why is there supply there? Of course there's supply there. There has to be supply here. I think it's done really well. I think the fact that it actually is punched in to this potential supply zone, I mean, this really, really should be a major point of supply. I mean, there should be some people that are really quite motivated to exit here because they got stuck in it at the highs, and they would have been regretting it. From 14 to 10. This is really signalling to me that there is actually very little latent supply in the system, very little motivated supply, even better than that. So it's a hold. I mean, look, no doubt it's a hold. Would I get to a buy? Well, it's on the next nice candle. Yeah, you could buy it. What's so great about this is that there's just so little supply in the system, and if you're going to buy a stock and it's going to crash in the next day, there needs to be a bunch of supply in there. And I'm just not seeing it. So 100%, this is a hold, and just to get it to a buy. Well, there's a bunch of buy candles already in there, but you might just wait for the next demand candle. What does that demand candle look like? Well, it's going to look something like this. So when you see that candle occurring in really that pink box, that could be your next buy signal. But absolutely 100% happy to hold it here. And if you're worried about whether you need to sell it at these highs again, I don't think you need to worry about that. Centaurus, and I think we're seeing a lot of scratching. So we talked about the exits. And I think we looked at it here. I reckon this is where we looked at it because I drew on screen what I needed to see to become positive on this again. And clearly we haven't seen it. In fact, it really has struggled and went straight through what should have been a key demand zone. These candles are interesting. They're mysterious. That one there and that one there, but interesting. This is a bit of a killer. That's a bit of a trend killer. And as long as we stay below that, I can't get excited about this. So let me delete all of this stuff and start fresh and show you the key zones I'm looking at. So if I'm looking sort of here, this was the last big push higher, and we are now really struggling to get back above that. This big black candle is one of those key supply events I think you need to really pay attention to. And if you're in it, is there enough to hold it? Well, I'm going to say there's just enough to hold it on the basis of these two. Okay, this is not my favorite chart though, by the way, but if you're committed to it for whatever reason, I'm happy to hold on the basis of those two candles. But if those candles get taken out, so the low of that is 110, if we see a close below 110, then the demand, the only thing really keeping me interested in this is this demand sort of between $1 and 110. If we get beneath that 110, I think it's real trouble. If we get beneath $1, then all bets are off. So whilst it stays beneath that high there, 124.5, so until we see a close above 125, I can't get really positive on it. But if it does, then it's going to start to look very interesting. That one was for Doug. Thanks, Doug. Next one is for Gary. We've done S32 already, Gary, so we might head over to MIN, which looks really good. And there you go, scratchings on screen where I reckon I would have drawn what I needed to see to get excited to get on this one. It looks like we did actually see that off a pretty good zone. And since then, the candles are not terrible at all. I mean, there's a little bit of supply in there. Why is there supply in there? Well, of course there's supply in there. We've got a little bit of a zone there. But this is good. I like this one. It should have been white. That would have made me even happier. But this is not terrible. I know it's black, but look where it is. We're going in the right direction. This is okay. This is great today. Let me do another update and see just how great it is. And it's a little bit like AKE, where we talked about, well, we get to a level, yeah, today's candle looking very good, where we get to a level, do we find that supply? Could be another one where we might not even see as much supply as you expect. So, you know, this is kind of now the key potential supply zone. So we're watching in here. Buy, hold, or sell? Oh, absolutely hold. So when we talked about others where I said, look, I'm not even thinking about this as a buy. It's just whether I can get myself up from a sell to a hold. This is a hold. There's no question about that. And sell is not even in the equation. It's just whether we're an outright buy. The only reason why you might not buy it today is, well, because the key potential supply zone is just so close. So if you're in it, hang in it. If you're not in it, well, look at your reward to risk. I mean, if you're getting out, below that close is probably where you're doing it. That low there, 58.88. So, you know, if you're getting in here, you've got, you know, give or take $5 worth of risk for maybe $3 worth of reward. So it's one thing to look at a chart and say, well, that looks great, buy. It's another thing to then, you know, transpose on top of that your reward to risk expectations, and you should be doing that. I know we don't do it a lot in here because this is more just sort of reading charts and teaching you how to look at them, but you know, there's a whole trade craft where you're crafting the trade. Where's your entry, where's your stop, where are your targets? For Jane, we're going to do all the coal stuff, but we're going to do them very quickly. Bathurst Resources, anything to worry about now? Hold, there's no question, it's just whether it's a strong buy at this stage. Look, I'm going to go hold. The buy part will come if we can just get rid of that pesky candle. That black one there has just taken a little bit of steam out of it, and we've got a little bit of trepidation here. But you know, as long as we stay above that low there, 130, I think it's fine, and you might even give it a little bit more leeway. I mean, even below, you know, close below that would be the completely get out case, but I think it's okay. So I'm going to go strong hold, not quite a buy, close above, say that high there, 140, you know, 2.5 and better, and we're back into the buy phase. But whilst we are just wonderful trends here, I have no issues with that. I can't see anything so sinister in there that you would be managing your exit at this stage. Okay, so happy to stay the course on that one with the full position. Next one for Jane, and I know it was a broad request, it was kind of the whole coal sector. And she did say yesterday, she told me that she had gotten out of some of her New Hope Corporation, which I think is the right thing to do. So whereas BRL, I'm happy to give it the benefit of the doubt and hold. I think this is a shot across the bow, and that alone is not necessarily enough to manage your exit. This is not a great follow-up. In fact, putting those together, I'm starting to get really nervous, and then I think this is the trend killer. Okay, so and then today is showing it cannot regain any impetus. So I'm going to go manage my exit here, and I'd almost go, because we've got the conglomeration here of a few signals, I'd actually go more than a third. Okay, so I'd almost go 2/3, and I'm pretty sure we had a third out here anyway. So this might be the end of this New Hope trade for now, the end of this phase, because the fear is that we might actually break this short-term trend and come back to the long-term trend. Now, that might make a few people cranky. They might tell me how good New Hope is. I don't care, honestly, how good it is or how bad it is. I'm just reading charts. But I think it's time to manage our exits on that one, okay? And again, disclaimer, this is general advice. So you do whatever the hell it is you think you need to do, and don't involve me. I'm just giving you my opinions. SMR, I don't like the cluster of those black candles. They do concern me. This one here, though, I think is important, because I think it gives me sort of that last line of defence. If you're really nervous, you might manage your exit. In fact, look, the last time I looked at this, I actually called a manage your exit. Okay, well, it might have been last week. I don't know. Maybe because it was the $3, proximity to $3 in that candle. I think I've said manage our exit. So the question now, I guess, now is whether you're going further with that idea of exiting. The trends are still good. You can see my previous scratchings. This candle here. So look, a close beneath that, I think it's all over Red Rover for the time being. Doesn't mean that this one won't go to $6 at some stage in the future. I don't know. I just think for the time being, close below 265, I think, is your last line of support there, and you're happy to hold, a partial position until that occurs, on the basis that it might go up and might give us some re-entry signals along the way. It might well occur, but sounding the alarm on that one, much like I did on New Hope. Or I guess resounding the alarm on that one. TER, this one's interesting. You know, shout at your screens. I wish I wish we could hear each other, because I'd love to know your opinion. I reckon you'd probably all tell me not to stress out about that one, because I think that one still looks very good. Sure, we don't like black candles. If we're on something, we want it to go up every day, but it's just not possible. It's not going to happen. We shouldn't have those expectations. We should expect black candles, is what I'm saying. But those ones aren't too bad. And out of the three coal stocks we've seen, this is clearly, hands down, the one that is exhibiting the greatest excess demand in the system and the least supply that's coming in. And there's a few nerves in that coal sector at the moment, but we're not seeing those nerves here. So I can't get to manage your exit on this. I cannot tell you to manage your exit on this because I don't think it's required based upon what I'm seeing. That one looks great. Strong hold. Is it a buy? Well, let's wait for it. Just give me another nice candle and it would be a buy for me. Next one is Whitehaven. We're a little bit like New Hope, where this is the shot across the bow. This is not great, but not as bad as New Hope's next candle. And then from there, actually not as bad. So manage your exit on this. If you're really jittery, like this is bordering on it. But I'm going to say, with my experience, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say hang in there, full position, but on absolute high alert, looking for any signs. We're going to be ruthless on any sign after that shot across the bow to manage your exit on this. But just giving it the benefit of the doubt. Why give it the benefit of the doubt? Because of this. And this is amazing. And actually, I really respect the way it actually took out that $5 level. Didn't give it a whole heap of problems, did it? And was actually consolidating above that until we got this little dip here. And Yancoal is the last one, which we'll have a quick look at. Obviously, the takeover price, not what people were hoping for. But you know what? This is really encouraging, the length of that lower shadow, and we're still holding trend. So I'm going to go with Whitehaven on this. Not quite manage an exit, but it's clearly a major shot across the bow. And then, you know, if it closes below here, it's all over for me. 561 or lower, I think you are a full exit on that one, because the story's over for the time being. Until then, we're watching for the counter. I should mention this actually, because I said, well, what are we watching for? You know, I mean, Carl says a high alert. You know, pay close attention to. Or what are we watching for? Well, we're looking for now. Let me get rid of that one and that one. And really, the zone is here. So how do we respond? Sort of around that six level, and you know, if we do get that recovery, you know, something that, you know, peaks and troughs that start to look like that, obviously, and then the candles we don't want to see in there are going to look like this. So if you see those candles in that zone, then I'm getting very, very nervous for Whitehaven, Yancoal, BRL, maybe even. Terracom looks the best. Now, this one's for Jeff. He sent in ZNC, which actually looked very good. Actually, I don't mind that one. I like the candles towards the end. I like the fact that we're holding this trend through here. That's all very good. We kind of reclaimed this short-term trend, and it's just starting to turn up. And this is a really good candle here. Let's see it close towards the highs of the session. And I reckon I could buy that one. Is it the best one today? Well, it's not far off it. We just haven't seen many obvious ones today. The only thing I'm worried about is there's some pretty clear supply candles through there, and just that area. But otherwise, it's not too bad. Ideally, all of this has happened a bit higher, but you know, as in there is some pesky supply in here that's caused it to come down further than you would have liked, right? In terms of showing good price action. What's good price action? This is good price action, right? I mean, this is good. We're not seeing that. We're seeing this more of a sideways consolidation. So it's very strong. It's a strong hold. I'm just going to pass on a buy because I'm sure there's something out there better than this one. And in sort of these pullbacks, I know one that will come up on the list at some stage. In fact, it is going to come up. Let's do it now, is ARU. And you see how this one pulled back far less through here, sort of, oh, I've got a triangle. Didn't mean to draw that, but hey, why not? You know, so we're looking at this and we're comparing to, say, ZNC, which isn't bad, but you see how that's kind of pulled back and it's started to impact on previous areas where of consolidation, whereas, say, ARU, you know, this all sort of happened well above here, well above there. So I think that looks much better, and well, what a great candle today. So it's similar in terms of just looking at this end bit here, right? Let me go back. So ARU, ZNC, you know, that bit and that bit similar, but I just think there's more reason to like something like Arafura than ZNC. And TKM is the next one for Jeff, which I'm not all that excited about just yet. Look, it certainly over here looking very, very interesting for a turnaround play. But I think that just the poor market, that's almost exactly where the rest of the market just kind of tanked, and it's struggled since then. Look, it's coming back okay, and I could probably get to a hold on that basis, but just the black candles through here and the lack of price action, we want to see more of this before we get too excited. So whilst I can see some benefits in Zenith, I'm not seeing it there on Trek, unfortunately. Jeff. Now, Cameron has given me a bunch. I know they're quite popular, so I might as well do them, but ARU, which I still think looks fantastic. Would I buy it here? Would have bought it yesterday. I know that's hindsight's a wonderful thing, but you're just at a level now where you're a little bit late, right? So what do we need to see from here to get the buy? Let's see another little hook, okay? Because that just gives you a nice level that's higher up to set a stop loss beneath, okay? If you're getting in here, where's your stop loss? Well, it's down here. So, and you're at supply already. So I think it's great. I would hold it. There's absolutely no reason to sell it based upon the current candle. That current candle may change, but probably just can't get to a buy just yet. But it's an amazing looking chart. It looks very, very strong. Very much the epitome of strong demand. This is not the epitome of strong demand. If anything, this is quite strong supply that we're seeing here. So Sayona Mining, I can't get bullish on that one. I'm pretty sure the last time we looked at it, I was quite bearish on it, and it's kind of continued in that fashion. Is this the inkling of a demand point here? I mean, it is at the long-term trend zone, isn't it? I mean, you could argue, well, this is a point where we should be interested. Certainly, historically, an old supply point can act as a demand point. So probably worth looking at that, keeping an eye on it on that basis. But I just think just the strength of this supply in here, and it is significant supply, it is organised, concerted, it is just focused, isn't it? It's going to be hard to get enough demand in there to push back into those. So I can't see any reason to rush out and buy that one anytime soon. Novonix, interesting. Okay, this is not a no now. This is not a sell. This is definitely a hold. And I think I said that last time we looked at it, that I'm happy to upgrade it from a sell to a hold. And since then, maybe even it was this candle that we last looked at it, we've seen a little bit of a pullback inside the range of that candle. So that's important. Look at that low there, 374. I don't think we took it out. 371, close 7. We actually did. Interesting. We just took that out a little bit. Oh, that's a shame. But anyway, nice pop back here. Ideally, you don't see that candle taken out. But look, this candle is good enough for me. And that close there is at 414. I just want to check that one. That high there, 419. And this high here is, give me the high, is 426. If I see it close above 426, I can see a reason why you might go speculative buy on this. But geez, it's speculative. And geez, it's early. Okay, until then, I can go hold. I can definitely go hold. I can't go buy. But that's good news. If you're a long-suffering owner of Novonix, at least it does appear to be turning the corner. Next one is AGY. AGY looks great. No complaints here. It's doing all the things we like. It is, again, we talked about, say, ZNC, where it's disappointing it had to come back beneath, say that, but, such was the severity of the downturn in some of these things. But it's held that really well, so I'm okay with it. And, we are doing those things. Remember, this price action I keep drawing out of these support zones. The price action, I say, well, I need to see this come back in. And the candles look pretty good. And even today looks very good. So if you've got it, 100%, this is a strong hold. I can't see any reason to manage your exit at this stage. And I don't think you need to fear this too much because we're getting in there with some really nice candles. Would I buy it? Well, that all depends. I mean, you're getting in pretty close to where there could be a significant influx of supply. Okay, and we're a long way away now from even the short-term zone and some of those stop-loss levels. So whilst I can go strong hold, I'm probably going to say, well, wait to see how we behave in this zone. Let's see what happens in here. And then we might get another little hook higher from which to attack. The first test, we talked about this idea of first test of supply first. And we know that if we sort of think about how these supply areas work, the amount of supply, think of the volume of supply at this level that's created at this level. Let's say it's that big. The first, right now, after that first test, it might only be that big. And that's all we have to get through on this next move, for example. So that would be a far more sensible scenario if you're looking to buy this one. But I think it looks very, very good. And let's do. The next one's BNR. How am I going for time? I'm going to have to start to whiz. Ooh, that looks great. This looks great. I can buy this. I think this is my first outright buy for today. And what's the difference between this and ARU and AGY? Well, there's the supply, but that's kind of the big one up here. We've got quite a ways to go. Maybe not as much to that one, but I'm happy to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that that's probably the key supply zone. And this with this candle is nice, and taking out this, and there's some nice candles through here as well. This is a good double bottom. I like this one. That is a buy. That's the first buy I've seen today. Okay, I like that one. Thank you, Cameron. Can't get to buy on that one. I'm struggling to go hold because I'm a bit concerned. Let me get rid of some of these previous scratchings, that we are more sort of just trending lower in this than looking to get back up. Okay, and probably not until a close above this clear supply candle here, clear supply candle here. So until a close above 59, I'm not really interested in that one. That is Sheffield Resources. Latin Resources, no, not as good as BNR, right? There's BNR, there's LRS, very similar, but we need to see a bit more impetus to the upside on that one. RMI, wow. Resource mining, I do remember this one. Do you need to manage your exit? Is probably what Cameron's after here. Yesterday's candle's not ideal. It does indicate indecision in the market. Today's candle is not ideal. But I'm going to say no. I don't think there's enough reason to manage your exit on this. I think you can continue to wait and see. If you're nervous and you want to take some profits, obviously you've had a very good run. But I think you want to have some skin in the game. I think that's the message. Continue to have some skin in the game and see where this one can play out. Okay, and the last one is ANX, which I can do very quickly, and I've no interest in that one at all just yet. What would get me more interested in this one? This sort of price action. Almost exactly that sort of price action, popping, testing, and back up again with some nice candles, and I could look at that one with more interest. I'm going to get through the list very quickly now, so obviously we're short on time. P&I, give me a lot of these at the moment, aren't you, today? Doug's give me another one of these. I don't think it's time, and I think I've explained to you why this is not as interesting as some of those other bottom fishing exercises that we've discussed today. So it's a pass for me, and I'm still, whereas some of them I said, well, I'm happy to upgrade them to a hold, I still think this one's might even be a sell. I think those trends are pretty well established to the downside. This one is for Rob, AMI. Nothing, unfortunately, to get me excited on that one, and quite a devastating pullback here. I'm not sure what caused that, but it hasn't rallied back very well, hasn't recovered well, and that would indicate to me we've got some problems here. So if you haven't already managed your exit on that one, I think you had a few signals to do so. I think you're going to have to do a little bit of managing your exit on that one, unfortunately. Rob, Andrew's got GAL, which I think you can manage your exit on this one, and I know it's, look, I followed it all that closely, but I know it's been in all the chat rooms, but if you can read a chart, I think that's a big problem for you, as is that one. So I don't think you want to have a full position here. Whether you want to retain something just to see where it can go, that's up to you. But I would say the intermediate top for that one, not even the intermediate, the top is in. $2 round number. I don't care what the hype is on this one. I think it could be a very long time before this one gets anywhere near $2 again. And AGL still looks good. I know there's been obviously some news around that one. I'll let you investigate what the news is, but the chart remains intact. And I think this candle is really neat because I think it gives us a pretty key level there to work above. So below 846, a close, not a tickle, but a close below 846. I think you can start to manage your exit on that and say, well, we had a reasonable run on it. It didn't do bags for us, but we got a bit of profit out of it. But keep an eye on that level. We're going to go to PLS, which is not doing enough of those things that we've seen in so many charts. I mean, look at Allkem. Look at how well that did. So if you want to unlock the mystery of PLS, have a look at Allkem, and then have a look at PLS, and then have a look at Allkem, and then have a look at PLS, and ask the question why this hasn't seen as much demand come in. Or even if there has been demand there, the demand is meeting enough supply to keep the price subdued. So I don't think that looks fantastic. It is starting to do some of those things that we like. So, back into peaks, high peaks and troughs. But the price action is not inspiring, certainly not, getting me all excited, and $3 last couple of candles, not bad. Look, I can go hold on the basis that we are holding this long-term uptrend zone, and that price action is back to the right direction. But all I can see in PLS is problems. And, I hope I turn out to be wrong on that, but I just think there's easier paths than PLS at the moment. GLN, I'm almost going to go ditto on that. I don't think there's enough in there to get too excited just yet. But let's see how it goes. Broken record here, I know, but let's see how it goes. But right now, not all that engaging for me, but I can see why you might be hanging on to it. FMG, which is very flat, isn't it? So we probably don't need to do a whole lot on this one. I would suggest it's binary sort of equation here, isn't it? A close above that high, 2068, so 2069 and better. I think we need to start looking at this one again, but a close beneath, well, certainly beneath there wouldn't be great. Close beneath 1959, I'm getting a bit cranky with it, but certainly beneath this. So that low there, 1845, close beneath that, then I think we're probably in another downward leg. But until then, I don't think you need to do anything, and I certainly wouldn't be buying that one just yet. So MAD, reasonable bounce on this one, but fading into this short-term downtrend zone, which will offer resistance. Not the end of the world though, and I'm going to broken record you again. If we see something like this, and if we could see a close above that high, today's high, probably setting a little bit of a peak here, 251 or better, it might start to look interesting again in what is still a long-term uptrend. But again, I look at this and I kind of see a few problems. This big supply candle is disturbing, and then the way it changed the price action. There is some demand in the system. There is some demand. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt and say that if we can close, say 260 or better, it's starting to look well. QPM, it's looking very, very flat to me. Eastern is telling me that there is a definitive feasibility study coming out on QPM next month. Supply appears to have dried up. Yes, I think so. I think supply is drying up, but we need the demand pulse. I think we need a bit of a push here, and we're not seeing a great deal down here, are we? So it's just a little bit boring for me. But I can see the white candles. I can see some of the stuff you like, but we need to see some interest come in here. We need to remove some of the supply that's no doubt going to be in the system. But this is supply here, and then we've got supply here. So the only way to get rid of these guys is to trade with them, guys and girls. I could go hold. I just can't get to a buy on QPM. AGY, jog my memory. Looks great. That one looks great. ICI, ICANN, that's disappointing. It was looking good, geez, at the start of the year. I can't see anything in this. There's nothing telling me that we're going to see a quick bounce on this one, Samuel. I think that's in real trouble. I'm worried about that one. Not a buy. Talgo, on the other hand, I think there's some signs of some reasonable demand coming in. This candle here, this candle here, this candle here. I like those candles. They're very interesting. But everything else is so flat that I can't get to a buy. So I can see enough in there for you, Samuel, to hold it if you like the story on that one. But it's not one of those that I'll be shortlisting or running as a feature chart anytime soon, I would think. What would change that? Well, there's so much needs to change. I mean, I think so much needs to change here to pull those trends up enough for me to get excited about it. Because, again, I look at this, and it's one thing to look here, but then don't forget my eyes looking here, and I just see trouble. I just see trouble on this one. And therefore, if I was scanning on a list, I would just flick straight past that one. It would not get more than a second's notice. MGX still looks good. It's tracking along with my scratchings from last week. No complaints on that one. Happy to hold it. Would I buy it? It's not bad. Not the worst thing I've seen today. ESS. I think we've got problems here. I've talked about how I look at some things and just see trouble, and I just see trouble. I just see a lot of trouble on this one. I'm not as excited about that. MIN we've talked about. NMT, which I think is hard. It's increasingly hard work here. It's not terrible. Solid 5 out of 10, but it's not up there. It's not up there for me. I'm not seeing enough white candles coming in. If anything, I'm seeing more supply in the system than demand. You just look at just trouble. And whilst there are a couple little demands in there, there are few and far between, unfortunately. Worley, let's have a quick look at that one. Still looks great. Do we need to manage our exit? No, I don't think so. I think $15 is a very natural place for this one to take a pause, but I think it's fine. So I'm happy to stick with that one. MNS, Magnus, talk about trouble. And maybe if that's the one thing we've learned today, is how to spot trouble. How to spot trouble. This one is trouble. There is trouble written all over this one. Trouble, 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 trouble. Do you get what I mean? This is trouble. Now, having said that, this is where Carl hedges his bets a little bit. This is not awful. It's not awful, but I can't call this a buy. I can get to a hold. It's not exciting me. What would get it to a buy? Let's start to see. Let's put the challenge to Magnus. Give me 5 consecutive white candles. That's all, and then I'll take you out of the trouble basket. Until then, you are trouble. BRK, I'm going to have to stop somewhere. I've forgotten to do that thing where I say, hey, stop typing in new ones. So I don't know if you're typing in new ones. Well, I've got to pull the pin. We're over time. Brookside, no, I can't buy that. Looks terrible. GED, this looks really interesting. Actually came up in my scan the other day. I put it in my shortlist. 7 out of 10, says Barry. I like Barry's style. He's giving me a score out of 10. I reckon it's better than 7 out of 10, Barry. I reckon it's pure specky, risk money only. I would buy that. That's just me, but I'm a punter at heart. I love a little punt, and that's telling me all the good stuff is happening in here right now. Why? I wouldn't have a clue. I have no idea what it does, and I don't care what it does, but I put a little bit of money on that without knowing what it does. JLG, stop typing in new ones, please. Is there enough for that to bounce? Maybe. This is interesting. Did it come on big volume? I think that's it, yeah. Look, I think you can hold it. I think you might get a bounce. The problem now, though, is what it does here. And if you see a bunch of black candles in here, then you're going to have to bail on this one. If you see a bunch of white candles in there, hang on, you're okay. But this is the trend-killing event. That's the species killer. Not enough of a comeback here. I mean, this here is out. That is get the hell out sort of stuff. So if you're still in it, you ignore the signals. Okay, maybe we didn't know what the signals were. This is the level. Yep, all arrows clearly point to that level. So maybe you want to hang on and see what happens in there. You can catch me next Tuesday, by the way. Come back and I'll start from where we finished. I'll start answering the questions from there. And I wish we had more time, but that's all we have. But hopefully you're learning lots as we go. Head over to Think Markets, of course. We are the good guys in the Australian share broking industry. We have all the products you need to trade. It's CHESS sponsored as well. That means you own your shares. They're not pooled and held in trust for you. We have a great platform, great customer service, and of course, some great analysis as well from time to time. If you are new to Think Markets, we do have this great 10 free trades offer going, but if you say you saw me in Ask the Experts, you'll get a bonus 10 trades. Head to that link for the T's and C's. They are pretty basic. And if you're an existing client, I'm sure you can find 3 or 4 other people who are still trading with their banks, paying exorbitant rates of brokerage. Tell them to come over to us and you both benefit. You'll get a bunch of free trades there. If you're watching me on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to stay notified of any of our new analysis updates. Of course, smash the like button to let us know you love what we're doing, so we'll keep doing it. Apart from that, it has been a pleasure chatting with you today. Sorry I kept you so long. All the best for your investing. Until we catch up again. Bye-bye for now.